Hello my lovelies and welcome to my first probably full-length video. I hope to do more of these, but I just really need to rant about this topic. It's been bothering me. It's been bothering me. And that is the uglification of women, particularly in Western games. I don't understand it. Who wants to play as ugly women? Who wants to play as ugly women? Now, you don't need to have Tits McGee for a main character, but why make them ugly? That I don't understand. And I have a few examples that I would like to use as just to get my point across as to why this is just bad. This is just bad. And let's start with Shadows. Assassin's Creed Shadows, right? It's probably one of the least egregious examples I've got, but it's still bad. It's just still bad. So, Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not the worst. Not the worst, okay? And looking back on it, I really judged her too harshly. She, in the grand scheme of things, not the worst. And I probably could have let this one go. I wasn't a Shadows hater because of her, honestly, but I wasn't a Shadow lover because of her either. She did not draw me. She was just token female character number 3452. Okay, she's nothing. She's nothing. But I will admit, I judged her too harshly. She's still not great looking. This is probably one of the better photos of her I found. But not great. But she's passable. I'll give her a pass this time, in comparison to the rest of this. Now, let's move on to a very, not really popular, but a very infamous game at the moment. Ghost of Yotei. What is this? Honestly, guys, what is this? This shouldn't have passed the quality check. It shouldn't have. This doesn't look appealing in any way. This just looks like an ugly woman. I'm sorry to say. She just doesn't. She doesn't pass the vibe check. No, I don't want this. I don't want this in my games. I just don't. And I don't understand why someone would. Why would you want this? Shadows was at least acceptable looking back on it. We were too harsh on Shadows. Because this is atrocious. This is just atrocious. I want to move on to an upcoming game. Another more infamous one, which is that intergalactic game done by Naughty Dog. I'm not interested, I wouldn't be interested in it regardless, but just the character design. Oh my god, I've got a story for that one. I have a real story for that one. So, this was the first picture I ever saw of it. Ever. I did not know what Intergalactic was. I didn't even know the name of the game. I had zero information. I just saw this picture. I want to make this very clear before I tell this story. When I first saw this, do you want to know what my first thought was? Honestly. It was that Naughty Dog must be making some kind of GTA clone about a Mexican cartel leader. A male Mexican cartel leader. I honestly thought this was a man. I honestly thought this was a man. When I had zero context about what this game was, that is what I thought this game was going to be. Because all I saw was this screenshot. And maybe that's on me. That's just what I saw when I first saw this. But that's what I saw. And honestly, this ain't that bad now, looking back on it. Not when you compare it to this. Like, what is this? This person looks both high and extremely exhausted at the same time. I don't know why you did this. Why? Why did you do this? And this isn't even the most egregious example. Okay, I'm getting to my most egregious example. Okay, I am nearly there. I am nearly to my most egregious example. But why? I'm a woman. I don't want this. I don't want this in my game characters. I don't want this. Just no. Anyway, let's get to the most egregious example. The one I really think kicked off the uglification of women. What really kicked it off? What's her face from The Last of Us 2? This is a man. This is just a man. Like, I know fit women. I know a lot of very fit women. And I'm a very broad woman in real life. Honestly, I have the broad man shoulders. Like, you would not like me in real life. That's why I use this. No woman I know looks like this. Not a single one. This is just a straight up man. The only women that look like this are ones with some kind of hormonal issue or women on a shit ton of testosterone. Those are the only women that look like this. No woman looks like this, and I don't understand why gaming companies think this is what women want. It's not what I want. I don't think it's what most women want. But it's certainly not what I want. Why would I want this? Why would I want this? Why would I want to sit and have to play a game and look at this character that just looks like no? It just looks like no. And it's just no. It's just no. And granted, things can go to the extreme the other way, absolutely. And I'm going to pull up an example of it pretty soon. But this is no. I don't want this. So, let me show you an example of kind of the extreme. You may have seen this floating around. You may have. It's been floating around a lot. And what I can say is, I prefer the one on the left. I prefer the one on the left. Now, if you want my ideal one, I think you take the face of the left, put it on the body of the right, and you got a good game. Got a good looking game. You don't need your character to be Tits McGee. You do not need a character to be Tits McGee. And that's coming from someone who is a Tits McGee. Okay? You don't need it. But if I have to choose, I'm choosing Pretty Face Tits McGee over whatever the other one is. Okay? If I have to choose, that's what I'm choosing. Because I want my characters to look good. If I'm staring at a character, especially on a game that's going to be 100+ hours, I want it to look good. I want it to look good. And this character here on the right does not look good. It just doesn't. It looks like she had an accident. Like her face was burnt and now is forever deformed. And another thing I gotta add, I just gotta add this in somewhere real quickly. I hate this, I forget what the extra technology is called, but this, where they take the voice actor's face and use it as a character. Can we not do that? That takes all the creativity out of character design. I don't like it. And I'm gonna say, you can do good looking characters without them being Tits McGee. You absolutely can. I'm gonna start with 3 really great examples because they are my favorites. Like, Expedition 33, my favorite game at the moment. And I'm gonna start with examples of these three characters because I think they are just the perfect example for this argument. We're starting off with CL. Now, she is probably the most sexualized of the three main women in Expedition 33. And she's still not that sexualized. She looks badass. They all look badass. No. How can you look at this and think, yep, that's a sexualized? It's like, no, she's just a good looking woman. She's just a good looking woman. And that's what I want to be looking at when I'm playing a game. Let's move on. Mael. Now, Mael is a child, right? I believe she is 16 in the game. So, you're not going to go for something too over-the-top sexy for her. But she still looks good. That's still a good-looking character. That's a good-looking character. How? How can you argue that this is too hot? You can't. And this is the point I'm trying to get across. You do not need to be a Tits McGee to have a good-looking character. But stop making characters ugly, because that's an insult to women. Because what you're saying is, if you have a good-looking female character, then they must be sexy. No, you can have a good-looking female character and not have them be overly sexualized. That is something you can do. That is something games do, and games should do more of. Yeah, let's get to my favorite of the three. Lune. Like, I feel like Asian women kind of get the brunt lately of being ugly. Look at Lune. She is a definition of class. She is a definition of being a classy woman. And she is gorgeous. She is absolutely gorgeous. You can't sit there and say that making a character ugly is better than this. You can't. Why are we making our characters ugly? Let's go to another quite, popular example that I can think of. Quite popular characters. Aerith and Tifa. Now, some may argue Tifa is overly sexualized. Personally, I don't agree. She's just sporty and happens to have boobs. That's not sexualized. No, she's just a good-looking woman who happens to have big boobs. And Aerith. Aerith is the queen of modesty. If you're talking about a modest game character, I'm thinking Aerith. Like, both of them are gorgeous. Both of them are stunning. Neither of them are overly sexualized. At least in my opinion. You may be able to argue Tifa and that's your right. But I don't agree. I just straight up don't agree. And I have one more example that's gonna be a little controversial. And I'm sure people are gonna argue this one, but I don't care. I have a point to make with this one. Samus. We all know Samus. Now, I think people are gonna be like, why are you putting Samus there? Look at her. She's in a skin-tight catsuit. Yes. For very little of the majority of the games she is in. Most of the time, you're a badass robot-looking thing. You're in badass armor, killing things. You're not playing... Like, you can maybe argue that Samus herself is sexualized. But you can't argue that her games are sexualized. Because you're playing in a suit of armor. People genuinely thought Samus was a man throughout the entirety of, I believe it's the first game, and it wasn't revealed till right at the end that you were playing as a woman. Like, how can you argue that Samus is overly sexualized, she wears a skin-tight catsuit? Yeah, but she's a badass. She looks like female Doom guy, basically. Or Master Chief. She has that kind of look to her throughout most of the game. when you're playing as her, you're not looking at this skin-tight catsuit for most of it. You're looking at this badass woman in this power armor shooting up bad guys. You're not looking at this. To claim that, at least in her games, that Samus is sexualized, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Not when you're playing as this badass power armor robot thing. In conclusion, why are we doing this? What is with making characters, female characters specifically, ugly? I've said it a million times in this video. I've basically repeated myself over and over again. I don't understand it. When I'm playing a game, what I want to play is this badass chick who looks hot as hell destroying everything. That's what I want to play as. I don't want to play as ugly Ghost of Yotei chick. Why would I want to play as that? Why would I want to play as any of these chicks that just look more like men than women? That just aren't appealing. The point of a game is to look good. Well, obviously, it's also to play good and have a good story. But graphically, it's to look good. No one's going to touch a game that looks completely dog shit. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. But I just want a game that looks good. I want the women in games to look good. And what's with the developers seemingly thinking, yeah, women want ugly chicks in their games. That's what they want to play as, the ugly one. I don't know anyone who really does. And granted, what looks good and what doesn't look good can be subjective. I'll give you that one. But for the most part, they just don't. At least to me. I want games that look good. I want games that are fun to play. I want games to be an escape. I want to see them succeed. Especially one like Ghost of Yotei. I was a huge Ghost of Tsushima fan. Huge fan. It was my game of the year that year. But I refuse to play Ghost of Yotei solely on the fact that I don't like the protagonist. I don't like the way the game looks. It doesn't look appealing to me. It might be a better game. I don't know. I have no intention of playing it. But I don't want to play as an ugly looking character. I want to get immersed in a world with a gorgeous character doing badass shit. What? I can't explain it any further. You know, and like I said, it can go too far the other direction. I played plenty of games with a Tits McGee character. I'm okay with the Tits McGee character. I think there's a place for it. I don't think it needs to be every game, but I think there is a place for it. But this uglification of women, I find that more insulting than the Tits McGee. And that's just my opinion on this. You can take it or leave it. I just needed to get it out there because I'm so done with this shit. I'm so done. Look, thank you for all who watched this far. I genuinely appreciate it. And if you want to see more, hear more opinions, let me know. For now, well, thank you all for watching. I'll see you on the next time, my lovelies.